"Don't look there." The rancher saw the truth and defied a powerful man. The twin sons of Caldera, 7, were beginning their slow descent behind jagged, red-hued cliffs, turning the barren plains into a canvas of gold and shadow. The heat of the day lingered in the cracked soil, and the only sound was the soft hum of Jace Redfield's boots pressing against the dust. He paused at the crest of a small dune, his hand shielding his eyes as he scanned his herd of sky bison grazing lazily below. The creatures were magnificent, towering beasts with broad shoulders, sleek metallic blue hides, and eyes that glimmered faintly under the suns. They were engineered to survive the harsh environment, resilient to the scorching days and freezing nights. Jace had spent years raising them, and in a world that had little room for patience, he valued the quiet rhythm of ranch life above all else. Yet something was different tonight. A faint shimmer hovered on the horizon near the abandoned mining facility that Jace had been warned never to approach. He squinted, but the light pulsed in a way that no natural source could explain. The locals whispered about that place, rumors of strange sightings, lights that moved on their own, and sometimes people who went there and never returned. Jace's neighbor, an old mechanic named Harlan, had always said, "Don't look there, Redfield. Some things are better left alone." But Jace was not one to ignore a mystery, especially one creeping so close to his ranch. Something about the shimmer gnawed at him. He had learned to trust his instincts, and tonight they screamed. One of the sky bison, a young male named Bristleback, let out a sudden bellow. Jace's heart tightened. He ran down the dune, boots kicking up dust, to see what was wrong. The creature was near the edge of the pasture, and beside its hooves were strange tracks, thin, metallic, and unlike anything Jace had seen before. "They weren't made by animals," he muttered. His voice sounded small in the vast desert. He examined the tracks closely. They glimmered faintly under the setting suns, almost as if they were alive. His mind raced. Who or what could have left them? The locals had always feared the abandoned mines, saying that Magnus Halver, the powerful mining magnate, controlled them. But those were just stories. Halver lived far away in the city, surrounded by his own walls of steel and machines. Why would he, or anyone else, be out here, in the dust and heat, risking nothing? Despite the warning that burned in his memory, curiosity got the better of him. He grabbed his wide-brimmed hat and set out toward the shimmering light, moving carefully so as not to spook the herd. The wind carried faint noises, a low hum, almost musical, coming from the direction of the mines. Jace's fingers brushed the handle of the old revolver at his hip, though he doubted it would be of any use against whatever he might find. As he approached the abandoned facility, the shimmer became clearer. It wasn't just light. It was something more, something that seemed to bend the air around it. Jace stopped a few meters away, hidden behind a rocky outcrop. There, partially buried under sand and rubble, was a dome. A translucent, almost invisible dome, glowing faintly with a pale blue light. Inside, he could make out shapes, moving, shifting, almost alive. Jace's breath caught in his throat. He had stumbled upon something extraordinary. "Impossible," he whispered. The dome wasn't part of any mining operation he knew. No walls, no machines, just technology. Advanced, alien, and humming with energy. Jace could feel it even from a distance, a pulse vibrating through the ground into his boots. He knew, deep down, that he had found something that could change everything he thought he knew about Caldera. 7. He considered turning back. The shadows were growing long, and the twin suns would set completely in a few minutes. That was the sensible choice. But something in him, the same stubbornness that had kept him alive in dust storms, in predator attacks, in freezing nights, would not let him walk away. He edged closer, careful to avoid leaving his own tracks near the dome. Then he saw it, a figure moving inside. Not a person exactly. Its shape was humanoid, but it shimmered, flickering in and out of focus like a broken hologram. Its eyes, or what he thought were eyes, locked on him. Jace froze. The figure raised a hand, and he felt a strange pull, a whispering sensation in his mind. It wasn't words, not exactly, but an urge, a warning. Do not come closer. He stumbled back, heart racing. That was enough for most people, maybe, but Jace Redfield was not most people. The curiosity burned too strongly. He stayed low behind the rocks, watching, noting the patterns of movement, the way the light bent and swirled inside the dome. Then, suddenly, a sound behind him, a soft metallic scrape, made him spin. A small drone, no larger than a dog, hovered silently a few meters away. Its single glowing eye scanned him. It wasn't aggressive, not yet, but it was watching. Jace realized the enormity of what he had found. Halver's mining operations were supposed to be about crystals and machinery, but this was something different, something alive, or almost alive. And if Halver, or anyone like him, knew Jace had seen it, he would be in danger. He backed away slowly, keeping his eyes on the dome. He needed a plan, and fast. He needed someone he could trust. That's when he remembered Lyra, a scavenger who often visited the outskirts of the settlements. She had knowledge of old tech, and she had a reputation for being brave, or reckless, depending on who you asked. Jace made his way back to his ranch as the suns dipped below the horizon, the sky turning a deep burning orange. His herd was restless, sensing something he could not yet understand. He felt a mixture of fear and excitement twisting inside him. The night would be long, and sleep would not come easily. He sat by the small fire outside his cabin, staring at the stars beginning to appear. The dome, the shimmer, the strange figure, everything seemed unreal. And yet he knew it was real, more than real. Dangerous, beautiful. And it called to him in a way he could not ignore. By the time the fire had burned low, he had made a decision. At first light, he would go back. He would investigate further. He would find out what secrets lay inside that dome. And if the warnings, "Don't look there," were true, he would have to be smart. Careful. But he would not walk away. Because in the vast emptiness of Caldera, 7, in a world where survival meant solitude and stubbornness, curiosity was the only thing that could change everything. And Jace Redfield was nothing if not curious. The morning sun burned slowly across the plains of Caldera, 7 casting long shadows over the rugged landscape. Jace Redfield was already awake, boots laced and hat pulled low against the harsh light. Sleep had come in fits, restless dreams of shimmering domes and glowing eyes haunting him. He had made a choice the night before, and now there was no turning back. He mounted his sky bison, Bristleback, whose metallic blue hide gleamed in the dawn. The herd stirred behind him, but he ignored them. His mind was focused on one thing, the dome. The strange flickering light from the abandoned mine called to him, and he had to understand what it meant. The ride across the desert was rough. The wind whipped sand into his eyes, and the uneven ground shook the powerful legs of Bristleback. Yet the familiar rhythm of riding calmed him. He had faced storms, predators, and even thieves on Caldera. 7, but nothing had prepared him for what he was about to uncover. When he reached the outskirts of the old mining facility, the dome came into view again. From a distance it seemed almost fragile, a thin veil of energy over the jagged ruins. But the closer he got, the more he realized it was alive in some way, humming softly and bending the light around it. "Hello?" Jace called softly, careful not to startle whatever or whoever might be inside. No answer came, only the faint, pulsing glow. He stepped closer, noticing more of the metallic tracks around the dome. They were new, fresh, as if someone had been there during the night. His pulse quickened. Then he heard a sound, small footsteps crunching on loose sand. He turned, hand instinctively brushing Bristleback's side. A young woman emerged from behind a rock, carrying a small pack and a strange device that clicked in word as she moved. "You're brave, or foolish," she said, eyeing him with cautious curiosity. Her hair was tied back in a messy braid, and her clothes were patched with leather and metal scraps, a scavenger's armor. "And you are?" Jace asked, keeping his voice calm. "Name's Lyra," she said. "I've been tracking some unusual activity out here. I saw your tracks. You're not one of Halver's men, are you?" Jace shook his head.
"No, I'm just a rancher."
"But I saw the dome. I had to know what it is." Lyra's eyes widened finally. Someone else noticed. "You don't know what you're dealing with. That dome, it's not just tech. It's smart. It reacts. And Halver, Magnus Halver, he'll do anything to keep people away." "Halver? The mining magnate? I thought he stayed in the city. Most people do." "But this is his real operation. The crystals he mines aren't for building machines. They're for something bigger. Something dangerous. And he doesn't want anyone finding out." Lyra paused, scanning the area. "We need to be careful. Very careful." Together they approached the dome, staying behind rocks and ruins, observing the strange light and the figure inside. Jace noticed it again. The flickering humanoid shape that had watched him the night before. It moved like it was aware of them, almost studying them. Lyra whispered, "It's learning." "That figure. It's not human." "Not exactly. Maybe an AI, or something older. Either way, it knows more than we do. And Halver wants to weaponize it? Not just weaponize it, he wants to control it. Imagine a tool that can think faster than any human, hidden under a dome no one can see from the air. That's power. Absolute power. The words made Jace's stomach tighten. He had spent years tending to his ranch, keeping his life simple, keeping his herd safe. Now the desert that had always been a sanctuary seemed filled with hidden dangers he had never imagined. As they watched, the figure inside the dome shifted again. This time it raised a hand, pointing toward a cracked wall of the old facility. A faint holographic projection appeared above the wall, showing a map of the desert with glowing points, nodes of energy scattered across Caldera. 7. Jace and Lyra both froze. That's where the crystals are, Lyra said softly. He's hiding them all over the planet, and this dome somehow monitors everything. Jace felt a cold weight in his chest. If Halver controlled that, he could dominate every settlement, every ranch, every trade route on Caldera. 7. And ordinary people like them, they would have no chance to stop him. They spent the next hours observing, taking notes, and quietly discussing a plan. Lyra pulled out her scanner device, showing Jace how it could detect the energy nodes without triggering the dome. Jace was impressed by her knowledge. She seemed fearless, but he could see the caution in her eyes. Both of them knew that one wrong move could be disastrous. Suddenly, a soft metallic hiss echoed behind them. Jace turned, heart racing, and saw the drone from the night before hovering silently. Its glowing eye followed their movements. Lyra muttered, "He's watching. Halver knows someone's here." Panic threatened to rise, but Jace took a deep breath. They were not alone in this desert, but they had each other, and if they wanted to uncover the truth, they had to be smart. Over the next few days, Jace and Lyra returned to the dome at night, keeping hidden. They discovered small changes. The dome emitted pulses at intervals. Strange symbols flickered along its edges, and the figure inside moved more fluidly, almost as if it was learning from their presence. Jace began noticing patterns in the sky bison as well. Bristleback and the others seemed restless near the dome, avoiding its energy field. Animals, it seemed, could sense what humans could not. That only confirmed to Jace that the dome was dangerous and powerful. One evening, as the twin suns set in a blaze of red and orange, Jace and Lyra were crouched behind a pile of rubble, studying the dome through a small scope. The figure inside lifted its head, eyes glowing brightly. Then, to their shock, it spoke, not in words, but in clear thoughts that entered their minds. "Do not trust Halver. He is not what he seems. Beware the surface. Seek the hidden path." Jace staggered back, whispering, Did you hear that?" Lyra nodded, her face pale. "Yes, it's communicating, somehow." The two of them realized that the dome was not just monitoring Halver's operation. It had intelligence, understanding, even warning them. And for the first time, Jace felt something new, a mixture of hope and fear. Hope that maybe they could stop Halver, and fear of the dangers they could not yet see. They spent the rest of the night planning. They would need supplies, maps, and a strategy. They could not confront Halver directly. He had men, machines, and resources far beyond anything they possessed. But knowledge was their weapon. And now, thanks to the dome, they had a way to see beyond the surface. As dawn approached, painting the desert in pale pink and gold, Jace looked across the dunes toward the horizon where the twin suns would rise. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. If they failed, Halver would continue unchecked, and the settlers of Caldera. But if they succeeded, maybe, just maybe, they could change the course of the planet. Lyra turned to him, determination shining in her eyes. "Are you ready for this, Jace?" He nodded, adjusting his hat. "I didn't come this far to turn back now." And together they watched as the dome pulsed silently in the morning light, a secret waiting to be revealed, a mystery they were determined to uncover. For the first time, Jace understood what the warning truly meant. Don't look there. But he also understood that sometimes seeing the truth was worth the risk, and in the endless sands of Caldera, 7, two unlikely allies prepared for a journey that would test their courage, their minds, and the limits of what they thought possible. The twin suns had barely risen over the horizon, spilling pale gold across the desert plains, but Jace Redfield was already moving. His sky bison bristleback kicked up small clouds of dust as they headed toward the abandoned mining facility. The night had been restless, filled with uneasy dreams of shimmering domes, glowing eyes, and a presence that felt alive and watching. Beside him rode Lyra, her face tense with concentration as she checked the small device strapped to her wrist. It hummed softly, detecting energy pulses from the dome and the scattered crystal nodes across Caldera. 7. We don't have much time, Lyra said quietly. Halvar's men will be checking the perimeter soon. If they find the dome's energy reading spike, they'll know someone's been here. Jace tightened his grip on the reins. So what's the plan? Observation first, Lyra said. We figure out where the crystals are stored, how strong the dome's defenses are, and then... She paused, looking out over the dunes. Then we hit them where it hurts. Jace nodded, though he felt a knot of fear in his stomach. He had never been a fighter. He was a rancher, a man used to the quiet of the plains and the rhythm of raising sky bison. But he had learned one thing in the desert. Sometimes courage was measured by how far you were willing to go, not how strong you were. The two approached the dome cautiously. From a distance it seemed calm, but Jace could feel the pulse of energy through the ground. The humanoid figure inside flickered in and out of focus, observing them silently. It had not tried to communicate during the night, yet he sensed its awareness, like an unseen presence, studying their every movement. Lyra raised a hand. See that? She pointed to a section of sand near the dome's edge. There were fresh footprints, human footprints, larger than theirs, moving in tight, purposeful circles. Mercenaries, Jace whispered. Halvar sent people here already. They ducked behind a large boulder, hearts pounding. Jace scanned the area, noticing the dunes had natural ridges and hollows that could serve as cover. They would need to move carefully or risk being spotted. Hours passed as they crept closer, measuring distances and energy pulses. The figure inside the dome shifted, and suddenly it projected a map again, more detailed than before. Energy nodes glimmered like stars across the desert, connecting lines running between them, forming a network. This is worse than I thought, Lyra muttered. Halvar's not just hiding crystals, he's controlling them all from this dome. Look at the connections. One failure could trigger something catastrophic. He could weaponize the energy, and no one would be able to stop it. Then we have to stop him. We can't let him do that. Lyra nodded, her eyes bright with determination. We'll need a distraction first. Something to draw the mercenaries away from the dome while we figure out how to disable it, or at least expose the operation to the council. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Jace checked his supplies, food, water, a small pack of basic tools. He mounted Bristleback and went over the escape routes, marking hidden paths through the dunes. Lyra set up small signal devices and mapped the locations of the mercenaries, noting their patrol patterns. By late afternoon, they were ready. The first plan was simple. Create a diversion to lure the guards away, then get close to the dome. Jace would ride out across the open dunes, kicking up dust to attract attention, while Lyra moved to the side, closer to the dome's edge. Jace galloped across the sand, dust rising in thick clouds, and the mercenaries noticed immediately, chasing him in hover vehicles with low hums and blinking lights. Lyra slipped through the shadows, scanning the dome and the nodes for weak points. As she approached, the figure inside the dome shimmered and turned toward her. She froze, feeling the strange presence wash over her like a tide. Then she heard it, not in words, but in thoughts. Do not harm the crystal cores. Protect the network. Trust only the brave. Lyra shivered, realizing that the dome was more than just technology. It was aware, and it seemed to be guiding them, giving subtle warnings. She nodded silently, communicating without words that she understood. Meanwhile, Jace had led the mercenaries far enough to give Lyra time. He ducked behind a ridge, heart pounding as the hover vehicle circled. The desert seemed to hold its breath. Dust swirled around him, the sun's low in the sky. He thought of his ranch, his herd, and the quiet life he had fought to maintain. And yet he knew that doing nothing was no longer an option. Back at the dome, Lyra discovered a control panel partially buried under sand. It was old, alien, and partially encrypted, but she could interface with it using her device. Lines of glowing symbols flashed across the panel, and she realized it controlled the energy network. With care, she began to map out a way to send a signal to the council, exposing Halvar's operation without triggering a collapse of the network. But just as she was about to finish, a voice rang out from behind her. Going somewhere, little scavenger? Lyra spun, hard on her throat. A man in dark armor stepped from behind the ruins, one of Halvar's enforcers. He carried a small pulse rifle, and his eyes were cold. Jace heard the shout and rode back, Bristleback kicking up sand in a blur. Lyra! He called. The mercenary raised the rifle, but Jace didn't hesitate. He rode straight at him, forcing the man to step back. The figure inside the dome flickered violently, almost as if it recognized the danger. Lyra moved quickly, finishing the interface just as Jace drew near. The device beeped, sending a coded message to the Planetary Council. It wasn't perfect, but it would alert someone with power far beyond the desert plains. The mercenary cursed and raised the rifle again. Jace kicked Bristleback's flanks, charging forward. Dust and sand flew, and the hum of the energy dome grew louder, almost like it was alive and responding. The man stumbled, trying to maintain balance, and Jace grabbed his arm, wrestling him down. Lyra joined, helping to hold the mercenary until he dropped the rifle. They didn't have time to linger. The hover vehicles were still circling, looking for them. "Come on!" Jace shouted. They sprinted toward the dunes, the dome pulsating behind them, sending out waves of faint blue light. The figure inside shimmered, and for a moment Jace thought he saw a face, calm, almost approving. They reached a hidden ravine, panting and exhausted. From the shadows they watched as the mercenaries returned, scanning the dunes, unaware that the message had already been sent. Lyra looked at Jace, a faint smile breaking through her tense expression. "It's done. They'll know soon." Jace nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and worry. They had survived this encounter, but Halvar's reach was vast. The operation was bigger than they imagined, and the danger was far from over. As the sun sank lower, painting the desert in deep red and gold, the duo made their way back toward the ranch. They moved cautiously, sticking to hidden paths and avoiding patrols. Every step reminded them that the desert was no longer just a home. It was a battlefield, a place where courage, wit, and determination were the only weapons that could matter. That night, as they rested under the stars, the dome shimmered in the distance, its pulse steady and watchful. The figure inside flickered one last time before fading, leaving only the faint glow of the energy network. Jace thought of the warning they had received: seek the hidden path. He did not yet understand it fully, but he knew that their journey was just beginning. Halvar would not surrender easily, and the planet's secrets were more dangerous than they had ever imagined. But for the first time, Jace felt a spark of hope. Together, he and Lyra had made a difference. They had taken the first steps against a power far greater than themselves. And the desert, vast and unforgiving as it was, had given them a chance to defy Halvar, to protect the planet, and perhaps to uncover the full truth hidden beneath the sands. The night was long, and the wind whispered over the dunes, carrying the promise of a new day and the weight of challenges yet to come. Jace lay on his blanket, staring at the stars, knowing that when the suns rose again, the real test would begin. Because Halvar was powerful, cunning, and relentless. And if they hoped to succeed, Jace and Lyra would need more than courage. They would need strategy, trust, and the bravery to face what they could not yet see, the desert of Caldera. 7 glowed under the twin suns, burning gold and orange across the jagged cliffs. Jace Redfield tightened his grip on Bristleback's reins, the familiar hum of the sky bison beneath him giving him a measure of calm. Beside him, Lyra adjusted her pack, her eyes scanning the dunes for any signs of movement. Today would decide everything. For days they had planned carefully, observing the dome, mapping the energy nodes, and sending warnings to the Planetary Council. The message had gone through, but they knew Halvar would not be idle. The magnate had men everywhere, and his machines could strike with devastating precision. Yet retreat was no longer an option. Caldera, Seven's people, their homes, and the desert itself depended on them. "This is it," Lyra said softly. "We hit the dome and the nodes, expose Halvar's operation, and get out before anyone realizes what happened." Jace nodded, though his stomach twisted. He was a rancher, not a soldier, but over the past days he had learned that courage often mattered more than strength. And now he had no choice but to test it. They rode in silence, keeping to hidden paths. The dome shimmered ahead, faintly glowing blue like a distant star. As they drew closer, the figure inside flickered into view. It raised its hand, and Jace felt a strange pull. Not dangerous, but guiding. The presence seemed to urge them onward, signaling that they were ready for the next step. Lyra spoke quietly. "The nodes are connected. If we can disrupt the energy flow just enough, it will expose Halvar without collapsing the dome. The Council will see everything, and Halvar's hold will weaken." Jace swallowed. "Then let's do it." They reached the first energy node, hidden under a rock formation. Lyra knelt and activated her scanner, carefully adjusting the interface. The node hummed faintly, glowing brighter as the system responded to her commands. Jace kept watch, scanning the horizon. The desert seemed quiet, but every shadow made him tense. Suddenly, a faint humming sound grew louder. Jace squinted and saw hover vehicles approaching from the distance, Halvar's enforcers returning faster than expected. They would arrive in minutes. "We don't have much time," Jace said, his voice steady. Lyra nodded, hands flying across the scanner. The node flickered and pulsed, then connected to the next one. She tapped her device again, sending a ripple through the network. The dome responded instantly, lights pulsing and shifting. The humanoid figure shimmered, projecting a map in the air above the dome. Lines of energy flashed across the desert, connecting every node like a web. "Keep going," Jace shouted. They moved from node to node, disrupting the energy flow just enough to alert the council while keeping the system stable. Each step felt heavier, the threat of Halvor's men growing closer with every pulse of light. Bristleback moved with careful precision, sensing the danger and keeping Jace steady. Finally, they reached the last node. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the interface. "This is it," she whispered. "One more tap and everything will be revealed." "Do it!" The device beeped and a wave of light shot through the desert. The dome pulsed violently and the figure inside flickered rapidly before stabilizing. Then, a holographic projection burst into the sky, displaying images of Halvor's operations, hidden mining facilities, energy nodes, and crystal caches. The council would see it all. From the horizon, Jace spotted movement. Halvor himself had arrived, flanked by his enforcers. The magnate's presence radiated authority, his dark cloak fluttering in the wind. He stepped forward, his eyes locking on Jace and Lyra. "You think you can expose me?" Halvor said, his voice calm but cold. "You're just two people. This is my world now." Jace tightened his grip on Bristleback's reins. "This world isn't yours to control?" Halvor smiled faintly. "Brave words from a rancher. But bravery alone won't stop me." The enforcers advanced, but the dome pulsed again, sending a wave of energy across the desert. It wasn't harmful, but it disrupted Halvor's equipment, forcing the hover vehicles to stagger and slow. The figure inside the dome flickered once, then projected a shield of light that separated Jace and Lyra from the approaching mercenaries. Lyra whispered, "The dome, it's helping us." "Then let's finish this." Using the shield as cover, they moved closer to the dome. Lyra tapped her device again, sending a final signal that locked the energy nodes into a safe, exposed pattern. The holographic projections now fully revealed Halvor's operations, showing the locations of every hidden crystal and facility. The council would see everything, and soon, Halvor would lose his power. Halvor's face darkened as he realized what was happening. "No!" he shouted. He tried to command his men forward, but the dome's energy pulse disrupted them again. The desert seemed to hum with life, as if the planet itself was aiding Jace and Lyra. Jace stepped forward, voice steady. "This ends now, Halvor. The people of Caldera, 7 will see the truth." Halvor's eyes narrowed. He took a step back, realizing his power slipping. The holographic projections shimmered in the air, undeniable evidence of his operations. The enforcers hesitated, uncertain, while the dome pulsed stronger, its energy reflecting the courage of the two humans who dared defy it. Finally, Halvor turned sharply and signaled retreat. The hover vehicles lifted off unevenly, struggling against the dome's interference. He shot one last glare at Jace and Lyra. "This isn't over," he said. But Jace didn't flinch. He and Lyra watched as Halvor vanished over the dunes, leaving behind the desert they had fought to protect. The dome's light slowly faded, the figure inside shimmering one last time. Jace felt a strange warmth, a sense of acknowledgement, as if the presence had approved of their actions. Lyra exhaled, relief flooding her face. "We did it," she whispered. Jace nodded, looking across the desert. The dunes stretched endlessly, but now they seemed full of possibility, no longer just a barren expanse. He thought of his ranch, his herd, and the quiet life he had fought to maintain, and now a new chapter had begun. The suns dipped lower, painting the sky in deep red and gold. The holographic projections remained in the sky for a while, visible across the desert, before fading completely. The council would receive the information, and Halvor's operations would be dismantled. The planet's people would have a chance to live freely, without fear of domination. Jace and Lyra stood side by side watching the twin suns set. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying the scent of sand, metal, and hope. "You think it's really over?" Lyra asked softly. Jace smiled faintly. "For now. But the desert always has secrets. And we'll be ready." Lyra laughed lightly, a sound that carried across the dunes. "I guess being a rancher isn't so simple anymore." "No," Jace agreed, "but maybe it's more important than ever." As the twin suns disappeared behind the cliffs, the desert was calm once more. The dome had vanished, leaving only the faint shimmer in the distance, a reminder of the intelligence that had helped them. The crystal nodes were exposed, the council alerted, and Halvard defeated, for now. Jace mounted Bristleback, feeling the familiar rhythm beneath him. Lyra climbed on behind him, gripping his pack. Together they rode across the dunes, their silhouettes cast long and proud against the setting suns. In the quiet desert, under twin suns and endless skies, two unlikely allies had defied a powerful man, protected their world, and discovered that courage, curiosity, and trust could change the fate of a planet. And for the first time in a long time, Jace felt at peace, knowing that he had done the right thing. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying secrets yet to be uncovered, and as they rode toward the horizon, the shimmer of possibility glimmered faintly in the distance, promising that adventure, mystery, and courage would always have a place under the twin suns of Caldera 7.